Hello, Contrarian Dude here with another This Week in Tyranny. And I'm going to take a little bit of a different tack this week. Normally we talk about how tyranny has advanced in the world. And this time I'm going to talk a little bit more about why. I just watched a video. I actually quite enjoyed the video, but it just highlighted exactly the problem with society. And it was by a YouTuber called Chris Ray Gunn. So he made a video commenting on this video. Some of you may have seen it. It was a group of students protesting on a university campus. And they were out there preaching so they're victims of oppression because of their skin color, and there's institutional racism, and no one's doing anything to help us, and someone's got to give us safe space rooms, and we need all these privileges and things because we've been oppressed for so long, and just totally playing the victim card. And this young girl steps up and says, "Hey guys, I was out yesterday, and well, not yesterday, but I was out recently, and black guys were racist to me, and a white woman came and helped. So we should just take care of. We should not assume that people are racist just because they're white." And she just gets literally dragged off the stage and ignored. And for the first half of the video, Chris Ray Gunn does a fantastic job of just tearing strips off the crowd and calling them out on their BS. And so I'm really enjoying the video at this stage. And then the last half of the video, everything shifts, and all of a sudden he goes on to commit the exact same, atrocity is not the right word, but I'll use it because I can't think of a better one right now, but the exact same atrocity as all these people playing the victim card. He goes on and plays the exact same victim card. And I'll show you so you have an idea of what I'm talking about. The people on campus, they're engaged in the race wars. They wanted to be victims because of their race. And then Chris Ray Gunn goes on, he's in the class wars game. So he wants to be a victim because of his social status and income and things like that. And so now there's race wars and gender wars and religious wars and class wars and LGBT alphabet soup wars. And it never ends. Everybody wants to be a victim. And I'm going to come back and answer that question, why that is, in a minute. But just listen to how Chris Ray goes off the deep end here and talks about class and that kind of stuff.
It's the same thing going on in Missouri, how the person who led the hunger strike was like, "Oh my God, I'm so oppressed. I'm so oppressed. All this racism is really hurting me deep inside." And it turns out the kid's like the son of a millionaire railroad executive who probably didn't have to do any work to get where he was. Probably just got a ticket from his dad, like, here's a couple $100,000, do whatever you want. The same thing with Jonathan McIntosh and Anita Sarkeesian. Jonathan McIntosh complaining about the lack of Wi-Fi on his fucking private island. It's always the people who have never had to fight for anything. It's always the people who have never had to scrape by on a shitty fucking minimum wage paycheck who are all about this victim mentality. Meanwhile, people like this woman, people who came to this country looking for a better life, who probably worked their asses off trying to get into a good university, is trying to tell them, no, that's not how the world works, dude. And the thing that sucks too is, like, these trust fund kids, these kids who grew up with like thousands of dollars with fucking ponies and shit, they're the ones who are gonna get the good jobs because they can buy their way into them. And people like me and you, people like us, who work minimum wage, maybe don't work at all, maybe we can't work, right? Maybe we don't have jobs, maybe we're scraping by on fucking YouTube income, right? We're not gonna be up there, we're not gonna be able to make changes because we don't have that privilege, that actual privilege. And what's even more frustrating is that these guys are making buco bucks, man, in just Patreon donations. They're upper class, dude. They're upper class, and they're getting donations, man. I can't.
This crowd makes all these stupid assumptions that all white people are racist and only white people can be racist, and they make all these assumptions about people they dislike. And then, Chris, you go and do the exact same thing. You make all the assumptions that all the people in this crowd are trust fund babies and wealthy, and the one good girl and virtuous girl who we both like in this, you assume she's poor and she struggled to get here and all this stuff. You don't know any of those facts. But you're engaged in class wars. These guys are engaged in race wars. So why is this happening? Why is everyone competing to be a victim? And I would argue that it is because of one single cancerous, destructive thought that has taken root in the hearts and minds of pretty much everybody all over the Western world. It is something that has infected both the Democratic and Republican parties. And if you're somewhere else in the Western world, this cancerous thought that I'm talking about has infected pretty much everybody. And if somebody proposes a solution or suggests that there is something that isn't at the very least confronting, but probably even downright offensive to most people, then you're barking up the wrong tree. And so the solution to this problem must be something that is previously has gone unchallenged. It is against the status quo. Certainly it's not challenged by the majority. So what is this toxic thought that has become so widespread? And I would suggest that people believe that it's not only okay, but it's the duty of government to treat people unequally in an attempt to create a more equal outcome or a more positive outcome. Let me say it another way. It's okay for governments to discriminate against some people in order to achieve a better outcome. Now, I'm not sure if most people watching this find that confronting or not. Probably they've never even thought about it. But it is a belief that most people hold for sure. And it was not always the case. Once upon a time, it was believed that government was just supposed to just be the bare minimum. Government's role was negative, not positive. It didn't have an agenda. It was just supposed to keep the peace, protect people, treat everybody equally in a court of law, and let everybody else play the hand they were dealt. Yes, some people were dealt with fantastic skills and wealth and whatever else, and some people had none of that, and some people had a mix of other things. Some people are tall, some people are short, some people are good-looking, ugly. We all had dealt a different hand in life, and it was your responsibility to play the hand you were dealt to the best of your ability on an equal playing field. But now, this toxic thought has taken root, and now the game is convince the world that you're a victim and you are supposed to get free stuff. Other people are supposed to sacrifice. It's okay for the government to go and extract resources, punish people, do whatever it takes to do positive discrimination, to right the wrongs of the way we were born. And the consequences of this mindset are disastrous. The first consequence is, in convincing everybody else you're a victim, you convince yourself. I mean, look at this poor kid, Chris Ray. He's so convinced himself that the rich kids are going to buy up all the good jobs. I don't even know what that means. But he's convinced himself of it. That's his reality. And he's going to manifest that reality. He's not going to be able to get a top-paying job or a good job. He's convinced himself that he's a victim. Good jobs are for those people, not me. I'm the victim. And he sets himself up for a horrible life. The second horrific consequence is you're on the prowl. Everyone's looking to find who's oppressing them. Whose fault is this? Why is my life so shitty and your life so good? We used to look at other people who have achieved something great, and we look up at them and we're like, yes, you're inspiring me. I'm going to go and do that. I'm going to get to there. Now we look at that and try and create a reason why there is a divide. What was the reason that he was able to and I was not able to that's outside of myself? Something over here has forced my situation on me, and I was not able to get to where they were able to get, and I've got to create victimhood status, and now I've got to go and right the wrong. Let's lobby government to point guns at people, threaten to throw people in jail if they don't do what I want, to give me what I want, to make up for the injustices of the past. Now, I want to be clear here. I don't want to suggest that a lot of these movements don't have very valid concerns, and I'm not suggesting that the world's perfect and doesn't need to be fixed. The toxicity is not in the observation that the world could be better and we should work towards it. We absolutely should. The toxicity is that the default position, and often the only position imaginable, is to go and beg government to force people to do something, to sacrifice something, to steal something from them, to right the wrong. The biggest problem with this belief is even if your goals are noble and worthy, the means by which you are trying to achieve them are immoral. And people can't see it anymore because that's just what everyone does. It's what everyone thinks. I'll give you an example from both sides of the aisle. The religious right used to send missionaries to countries. They used to go there voluntarily, set up camp, be charitable, be hospitable, be extra nice people, offer people Bibles, and people would voluntarily come to them or not come to them, and they would try and win them over with charm, with grace, with charity. Now they're advocates of sending in men with guns and slaughtering everybody, dropping bombs on people, sending in drones and blowing people up. We're going to spread democracy that way? They've become addicted to using the violence of the state to try and achieve all of their ends because it's the only solution people can see anymore. And the left are equally guilty. They see a challenge in society, a rapidly growing wealth disparity between rich and poor, and I totally see it, and it has really negative social consequences. I get it. It's really, really bad. Once upon a time, there was zero income tax. No one claimed that you should steal money off someone else just because they were successful. And it was, coincidentally, it was a time when it was the biggest middle class the world had ever seen. But now, people are like, well, it's so ubiquitous and it's just so the done thing. It's the only solution that I can possibly fathom is let's just go and steal more money off those people this week and more money off that week. So how did this happen? And this is the part where I just get so much resistance from people. See, up until now, there's probably been a little bit of resistance from some people, but also a lot of people have been like, yeah, no, I can see that. But with what comes next, Almost everyone has a reflex. Push this away from me. I do not want to accept this as a reality. This cannot be true. Because this transition, the insertion of this widespread belief into society was not organic. It wasn't grassroots. It didn't come about by accident. It wasn't a reflection of the changing times. There was a group of people with a very specific agenda dedicating all of their resources to having you believe this. In order to understand why they would push this agenda, you need to understand that government is a weapon of the rich. If for all intents and purposes, you and your buddies were the government, and it was completely irrelevant what Muppet got voted in this year or that year, it made no difference, wouldn't it just make sense that you would do everything in your power to convince the population to fear their own freedom, and to fear their neighbor, and to fear their community, and to beg government to protect them from the evil raptures of their own liberty, to give the government the most amount of power possible that you control? Wouldn't that just make sense? If you convinced the world that without you and your powerful government, that the poor would never get educated, and the rich would get richer, and people would starve to death, and it'd be a Mad Max Beyond Thunderdome dog-eat-dog world, if you convinced people of that horror show that would happen without you, then when anyone presented them with an idea, with information that they don't actually need you, they will resist that idea with all of their psychological might. They will shut down if they need to resist hearing this information. You will effectively own them through their own fear. They will never, ever, ever leave your side. They will defend you to the death because they believe that without you, the world is a horrible place. And what if, as an extra insurance policy, you made people so poor, made them work so hard just to make ends meet, that they didn't have the time to investigate and research what it is that you're doing, so that you control what they hear and see and think and feel when they go to government-run schools that you control. And then when they get out into the real world, you control the mainstream media that they can see and hear easily. So the only way out of this trap for them is for them to set aside their own very limited spare time and do the research and find out what's going on. And I would encourage you to do just that right now. The very first link in the description of this video is a link to a video called The Public Schooling Scam I created a little while back. And it goes through with proof and with evidence and lays out the exact method by which they took over the schooling system and attempted to install in you the belief that your own freedom was something to be terrified and that you should demand government try and solve all of your problems so that they can have that power over you. The proof is right there if you're willing to do it. But if you do take that challenge for yourself and you do watch that video and others like it, and you do the research and look at the evidence yourself and you see, oh my God, there's something here. There's something here, and your mind begins to open and you see the world as it really is. And with this new opened mind, the fun really begins. You can begin deconstructing all of the lies that you were taught, all of the reasons that you were taught that you're the victim and they're the oppressor and they've got the upper hand and why it's so bad for you and why the world is so predatory and evil and why you should fear your fellow man. You can begin deconstructing all of those beliefs, and you can begin to realize and see just how beautiful the world really is, how kind and compassionate your fellow man really is, and how everything is going to work out just fine, dare I say, a hell of a lot better, if you stop running to government and begging for them to solve your problems. And that's what this entire YouTube channel is about, breaking down all of these issues one at a time, so you can begin to see that the truth is so much more beautiful than the lie ever could possibly be. I hope you like this video, and I hope you share it. In fact, I hope you share it far and wide on all of your social media. But most importantly, I hope you click on the link in the top of the description and begin your journey of seeing just how amazing and beautiful your own freedom is. I'll see you soon.